Yeah. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah, get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, bet you this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, and this art he's king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping this track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back. Yeah.
Ooh, what's up, everybody? I feel like that I just yelled at. I'm sorry. Hello, everybody. Is that better? Is that a better way to come in? Did I come in too hot there? Welcome to the Apron Bump. I'm your host, Kyle, aka the hardest part of the ring. How are you today? I feel like I usually just jump right into the wrestling, but I never ask how you are. Are you having a good day? Did you wake up, well rested? Maybe have some breakfast. Well, let me tell you. Well, speaking of breakfast, did you Speaking of breakfast, when it comes to eggs, how do you like your eggs? I like eggs. How do you like your eggs? Because I like mine scrambled. Scrambled. The show's called Scramble Madness. Ring of Honor Scramble Madness. 2002. That was a long way. Take it to a shitty scrambled eggs joke. But speaking of eggs, my eggs were fertilized watching this show because boy howdy was it a fun watch. As the title suggests, there's a scramble in this a few scramble matches actually in this show. And it's funny. I came into this Ring of Honor timeline from the beginning, right? And my vision of Ring of Honor was, Bryan Danielson, Christopher Daniels, Low Key, Amazing Red, Samoa Joe, CM Punk, at least early Ring of Honor. That was my vision. But turns out these scramble matches fucking rule, dude. Like, it was funny because I was shitting on it. Like in my first few episodes, you go back and listen to, which by the way, if you want to listen to my older episodes, go to apronbump.com, go to the episodes tab, and select ROH for all of my ROH, all my RUH, as the kids call it, all my Ring of Honor episodes that I have done to this point. But yeah, my early episodes, I was like, God, this is just like, feels like filler. It feels like, oh, we're just going to throw these less talented wrestlers in a match and just see what they do. And maybe they break their neck. Maybe they break their coccyx. Who knows? But whatever, they're disposable. But it seems like, like I said, the show is titled Scramble Madness. So they're obviously leaning into, like, they're advertising these type of matches, which means they're leaning into how effective they are and how entertaining they are. And I don't know, maybe it's just my growth as a wrestling fan, maybe my growth or, degrowth, shortening. That's not right. Whatever. But I'm beginning to like these style of matches, especially in the context of 2002 Ring of Honor, because this is stuff you're not seeing anywhere else. Lots of innovative moves, lots of innovative spots, and like they're embracing the spottiness, which when they embrace it and it's kind of spotty just for, hey, look how impressive we are. It's pretty fun to watch. They're not taking themselves too seriously, and there's a lot of hilarious spots, both in the scramble matches and really just throughout the show. But as always, Ring of Honor, such a great watch. hopefully you can still buy these shows on DVD, VHS, floppy disk. I wish Honor Club had more availability of their older shows, but if you ever are interested in how I watch these shows, just let me know and I'll point you into the direction of the store that I bought them from. But yeah, so Ring of Honor, Scramble Madness. It's not just scrambles. It's not just flips and flops and jizz. There's some good storylines brewing as well, especially with the Prophecy, which is the main faction that has all the titles, it has all the major story, all the major main events and all that. The Prophecy running roughshod, as they say, and a lot of, hostility within the group, new members coming in, old members maybe going out. You have a budding rivalry between Bryan Danielson and Doug Williams getting ignited on this show. You also have Homicide stabbing Steve Corino with a fork, so I assume those gentlemen will jostle sometime in the future due to that. But yeah, Ring of Honor, this, like I say it every time, but as the shows keep coming, you can start to see how they're further kind of solidifying what their identity is and how that would kind of transform in years to come. But enough of my yapping. Let's get into it. But first, got to give a shout out to my guest, RN from Smacked Raw podcast. Brought him back on. You might remember him from my Progress Chapter 10 episode that I did a few months ago. Had a good old time pulling puds with RN. Chapter 10, recapping that show. So go check that out if you haven't already. That's a good listen. Follow RN on Twitter at Mr8984. Follow the Smacked Raw podcast on Twitter at Smacked Raw Pod. Their link tree is up there, and it's also in the description if you just want to check them out wherever they are. They do live shows on Twitch, which then get uploaded to YouTube. You can also catch them on any audio platform that you insert sound into your ears. So go check them out. Really entertaining group of people over there. I've kind of gone over, under a rebrand of sorts over the past month or so. Got some different kind of shows. You got weekly recaps. You got She-Elite Showcase, which gives the female perspective to wrestling. Had Katie on a few weeks ago for WCW Uncensored 1995. You also got Mute RN, which is a rant show upcoming. Tons of other stuff in the Smacked Raw camp. Go check out those boys and girls, and check me out while you're at it here because you're already listening. So why wouldn't you, unless you're an asshole or something? Ring of Honor, Scramble Madness 2002 with myself and RN from the Smacked Raw podcast. Overall thoughts? Because I'm assuming this is the first time you've seen the show, or am I wrong?
No, I've seen a couple of the matches. Like I saw the Daniel Bryan, Doug Williams match before.
Yeah.
Just stumbling down a YouTube rabbit hole and shit. But yeah, no, that was the first time I watched the entire pay-per-view. I was trying to see if I recognized anybody from now that was on there then. That shit was crazy, 2002.
Dude, yeah, it's like chock full of guys that we see are running the business right now.
Right.
It's crazy because we recently did a best tag teams ever podcast with Smacked Raw with Bammer Slammer, and both of us had Kevin Steen and El Generico on our lists. So I know you're very familiar with Ring of Honor. Are you familiar with this era specifically?
I started maybe about 2004.
Right. Yeah, so you were like
I said, I've seen some of these and I'd catch it like late night, 3:00 in the morning type shit. But then I actually fell into it 2004.
Right. So you're not too familiar with the Prophecy, for example?
No, I know who they are and everything. Like I said, I got back into it, went back and did some rewatching, some tape trading, some LimeWire shit.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't buy the VHS that they were plugging in the show?
Right. It was, like I said, that was the year 2002 was the year I graduated. So when I was in college.
High school or college?
High school.
Okay.
So when I got in college, that's when I kind of got back into it. I met other guys that were kind of into it and shit. And they hit me to some links and stuff and everything. That's kind of how I got back into it. Well, that's how I got into independent wrestling. I never stopped watching WWE and shit like that. But That's what kind of got me into the indies.
Dude, LimeWire was clutch, man. Because that's how I watched Ring of Honor too. I would watch it like on this little monitor. Like I would have my bed was in the background, and I would watch it like on my little monitor. It was but it was like still so fun watching it, like looking back at it.
See, I would download it in one of my classes, like overnight, because depending on how long it was, that shit could take like 10 hours to download.
Shit, yeah, easy, dude. But yeah, man. As far as this show goes, I guess what were your overall thoughts before we get like into the individual matches and stuff?
It was innovative as shit. Like some of the moves they did, like especially for back then, like it's commonplace stuff now. You don't even like bat an eye at it, but like in 2002, that shit was nuts.
Yeah, there's some stuff, even if you look at it in today's lenses, like it's still fucking crazy. We'll get to the Scramble match later in the show, but that shit was nuts. But yeah, the show opens up with a backstage promo from the Prophecy. So we got Christopher Daniels, Xavier, Samoa Joe, and Simply Luscious, as my cat like nibbles at my fucking ankles. So there's no titles on the line tonight, and Daniels explains that it's because Boston doesn't deserve it. So fuck Boston, I get wherever. It's like Wakefield, Massachusetts or something. I
agree. Fuck Boston.
And we were talking a little bit about Samoa Joe DMing back and forth, and dude, first of all, he looks like a baby here. And his facials in this opening promo are hilarious because, like, I don't know if you caught the dynamic. I guess they kind of explain it later in the show, but basically,
he's their gun for hire.
Yeah, exactly. He's not, but like everybody kind of thinks he's a part of the faction, but he's really just getting paid and doesn't really care. He doesn't like subscribe to their beliefs at all.
Right.
So we have Xavier, who's the champion. He doesn't feel like a champion at all, but he's the champion, the Ring of Honor champion, and he's like going in about how he's the all around best and all this shit. And you just have Samoa Joe in the background, like, really?
The thing I noticed most about it, this motherfucker, like, worst champion ever. Don't even know how to hold the belt. Like, the belt always looks like awkward and like jumbled up while he's holding it and shit, bro. I'm like, hold the belt right, bro, or just
that's pretty heavy, man. Which is weird because he does look like a wrestler. Like, among like the people we see in the show, like he probably looks mostly like a wrestler more so than anybody else.
And he did get a little bit better. Like I remember seeing him in like PWG a few years later and stuff. He did become somewhat better, but like as of right now, he's a fucking jobber, creator wrestler.
Right. That's the thing. He's not bad. Like I wouldn't say he's a bad wrestler. He's just, when you look at the talent that's on this show, it's like he gets buried.
Even in the group, even in his own group that he's in.
Right. He's like the fourth. He's the fourth best person in the group.
On top of that too, like he's the title holder for the promotion, and he wasn't even anywhere near the main event. He was like the third or fourth match for the main event. So.
Right. And I guess maybe that's the story they're trying to tell, but I guess we'll get into that when we get into his match. But so after that, what'd you think about their the little intro video package to start the show?
I dug it. Like I said, it was low budget, but not in a low budget way. Like if that makes sense. Like the quality of it wasn't, but for back then and like the angles and cuts and everything, like it actually for a 2002 video package that's not WWE, like it actually was kind of fire.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch it because the last show they did one of these and they like spoiled like a lot of the finishes on the show. I don't know if it did it this time or not, but I was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna watch it because it's gonna like give away the big spots. But
it gave me a couple, but like I said, it took me a couple of days to watch the show, so like I forgot. So you know what I'm saying? So like it wasn't too terrible. But I do remember a couple spots it did give away.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure coming into this cold, a lot of guys probably blend together when you're like, so you probably don't really digest a lot of it anyways. So, but this opening match here, so we got a tag team match. We got Jay Briscoe and the Amazing Red versus Mark Briscoe and a partner of his choosing. And the partner he ends up choosing is Christopher Daniels. So the whole story here is that Mark Briscoe is now the newest member of the Prophecy, which is, dude, it's so cheesy, but I love it. You have like Mark bowing to Daniels and like, you're my master, like Ravens.
First of all, we got to discuss like how fucking the Briscoes were 12 years old on this. But they were literally in high school when they they don't look. Even if you added the facial hair and tattoos, they still don't look anything like they look on this fucking pay-per-view. Like, even though they were saying the Briscoes, like, I had to go back and rewind. Like, this is really fucking Jay and Mark. Like, I even messaged you, like, bro, the Briscoe brothers.
They're in singlets. Like, nothing's right.
Nothing about them. Like I wonder if they go back and look at this shit. Like, what were we thinking?
Yeah, it's funny because Mark here isn't even an adult. Like, he's literally a child.
Yeah,
he's 17 years old.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I knew he was like 16, 17 years old at this point.
Yeah, because he in Philly, which is their home base, he can't wrestle because of the commission or whatever. But Boston are like, fuck it, throw him out there. It's Boston. Who cares?
And I just want to say about Christopher Daniels, like, I always give him shit about on AEW. Because he's the old man and everything, but like, I forgot how fucking dope he really was. And like, at this point, they weren't even calling it the BME yet. They were just calling it the double jump moonsault. So like, he hasn't even got into his bag yet for real, for them to recognize how fucking good he is. And he looks exactly the same 20 something years later, like almost exactly the same. Like it was a weird thing seeing him.
It's crazy, thinking about it. This is only a few years after, because he was almost the higher power, right? In WWF. This is only like, 3 years after that? It's kind of crazy when you're watching this, looking at it. Because we're also like 3 years before his like big TNA run, when X Division was fire. So he's done so much in his career, and he's still like at this point really early.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, they haven't even started calling it the BME yet.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. He hasn't done it's only the tip of the iceberg for him, for sure. And he's doing double duty on this show, but this is kind of like there's a couple people that do double duty on this show for whatever reason. But
at least 3 people were in like 2 or 3 matches,
including Amazing Red, who's in this match too. But also can't forget Jay's promo to open the show, because like I said, he can't fight Mark in Philly, so now they're in Boston, so now he has an opportunity. So Jay gets in the ring, and I quote, says he wants to finally get his hands on his faggot brother.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Jay, cool, neat.
I flinched. I never thought that I'd come to the point in my life, because like, if you, especially like for my age, like I'm almost 40, like hip hop and shit, like that word was used really in songs, not to be derogatory towards a gay person, but to be derogatory towards a straight person. So like, I've even had to train myself not to say that shit anymore. So like, I forgot what era we were in. And I literally was like, old man, old lady, shake, clutch my pearls mode.
It's funny because their parents are ringside too, which makes it even more hilarious. It's like,
literally mom and dad at ringside. You don't talk like that at home.
But yeah, then Mark comes out, they do the whole prophecy thing, the match gets underway. Jay and Red, they get some double team stuff going, but then once Daniels, he like starts ordering Mark he's like basically telling him what to do, and then that kind of allows him to take advantage a little bit. Every time Mark Briscoe and Jay Briscoe are in there together, dude, they're like, there's some brothers that when they wrestle each other, it like doesn't work. Like the Hardys were never like that great, even like, stuff like that. But like Mark and Jay Briscoe, dude, their chemistry both with each other and against each other was always incredible.
Well, you could tell, like I said, you can tell that they trained together and they were together, because I think that's what a lot of that comes from too. That they do train together, and that at this point they've been working together a few years and they're not even fucking 20 yet. So like, I think that has a lot to do with it as well. Mm-hmm.
The match, pretty solid match, some good false finishes. Like you said, Daniels hits the BME, even though they don't call it the BME, but it's like beautiful. Like it's most like the way he hits it, he like almost elbow drops his opponent, which is just beautiful. We get a code red from Amazing Red, the originator.
Amazing Red. I was just thinking, did you see the Versus shit with Locks and Dipset? You might not have, but I like that. Joel Santana had on like a do rag, a scarf, a headband, and something else, and like all I could think about was Amazing Red having the same shit on, bro. Like just literally
Right.
headgear for days.
That's the 2002 indie wrestling
Right. I
gear.
forgot he wrestled in the do-rag with the headband.
And we'll see more of that in the Scramble match later. But yeah, this match comes to an end when Amazing Red, he goes for a Hurricane Rana off the second rope, but Daniels blocks it and does like a really smooth transition into the last rights, which is like a crossroads kind of deal. So Daniels pins Amazing Red. So him and Mark Briscoe get the win, and Daniels, they go to the outside. They find the Briscoe's parents, and Daniels is like, he's my family now, and all his parents are all sad. Like, oh, it's such good shit, man.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of like this whole deal in the opening match here.
The mom and dad being ringside though is just the fucking kicker. And their dad is huge. Like their dad is huge. Like at this point too, he's like twice both their size.
All right. Throw him in there. Throw him in a match and see what happens. But yeah, after that, we get Special K backstage. You familiar with Special K at all?
A little bit, not much. I guess
They're
I'm
high.
familiar, but I can't remember.
Yeah, they do drugs. That's all you need. That's all the backstory you need.
Yep.
Joey Mercury's there, which is cool, I guess.
And they were just grilling him for being like, damn near call him a pedophile because he was so much older than everybody else in Special K. I'm like, damn, why they doing Joey like that? He's probably 22.
Dude, I love that dynamic. And they even play more on that in the Scramble match. But before that, we get a barn burner here. So we get Mace versus Mickie James. Whew. It is, so are you familiar with the Christopher Street connection at all?
No, not on this one, no.
So their gimmick is that they're gay. Like that's literally it. But one of them, I think he's out with an injury or something, so he's not there. So it's just one of them, which is Mace. And they had a whole storyline where it's really more of an Alice in Danger versus Alexis Lurie feud more than anything.
Right.
But we got an intergender match here. It's really nothing much to it. I mean, women's wrestling isn't really a thing. So it's right. More of like a spectacle than anything, honestly, even though it's Mickie James and she's like one of the best workers probably on the show. At one point, Mace, he hits a clothesline in the corner, like the most shitty, soft clothesline you'll ever see in your life. And even the crowd's like, oh, like they do like a what?
Yeah.
And the commentator's like, I'll just say it. That was the gayest clothesline I've ever seen. It's just like, I guess. I mean, that's pretty accurate, I suppose. Yeah,
this show just would not have made it at all. It get about 10 minutes in before they pull the plug on it today.
Yeah,
it was just like I said, it was so many moments where I can't believe it, but I actually did cringe on some of this shit. Like 2002.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still, we're in Katie Vick era, so if that tells you anything about what people's mindsets are. But there's one point where Mace, so I call this move the slug. So it's kind of like the caterpillar that Otis does, but he just kind of crawls over his opponent, and rubs his dick all over their face. So he tries to do that to Mickie, but Mickie grabs his balls and then hits a top rope DDT for the win. This is a crazy sentence I just said. So Mickie James wins after grabbing the guy's balls. Alice in Danger gets in the ring afterwards and kisses Mickie James because it's 2002 and everybody loves lesbians.
Yep.
And then so the commentator, I don't know if you caught this, it's Gabe Sapolsky on commentary, even though he goes by a different name. But after all this deal happens, he's like, this feud is over. And I'm just like, thank God, because I've had enough of this. It's been like several months of like bullshit.
At this point, was he booking for them still at this point, or had he not took that job yet?
I assumed he was, but I'm honestly not 100% sure. I think if he's not officially booking, he has a hand in it some way. What would you think of Mace versus Alexis Lurie?
Yikes.
That's
about the best I could do. And like you said, it wasn't like at first I was like, man, they are really disrespecting me, but then I had to think back, like you said, like at this time, women's wrestling was bra and panties matches and pillow fights. So it kind of was what it was.
Yeah. She made the best of it, and I guess she kind of came out on the other side. So, But after that, we go backstage to Steve Corino. So the last show came to a close with him getting stabbed in the eye by Homicide with a fork because Ring of Honor. Right. And so he says, Steve's pissed, like, this is bullshit. I'm leaving. I thought Ring of Honor was real wrestling. You have this thug stabbing me in the face with a fork. So he's like, I'm going back to Japan where they respect real wrestling. And that's pretty much it. This is a point where guys in Ring of Honor would go back and forth from Japan, you know, so it's kind of just a way to write them off, I guess, for the time being. But I know Corino and Homicide have a pretty long feud, like towards the end of 2002, 2003. So just getting off the ground with that. That kind of plays into why Samoa Joe and Homicide have a match later, is because Joe and Corino are tight. So pretty much building up to that with that segment. But man, we have the champion in the next match. What, number 3? Match number 3, just kind of thrown in there.
Which was what we were talking about. Like your top belt in your company is the 3rd match on the show.
Well, hey, at least he's facing someone with a pretty big name.
Right.
Jeremy Lopez. You a big Jeremy Lopez fan?
Yeah, I'm a big stan. I mean, I bought a lot of merch back in the day.
But yeah, it's a non-title match, of course, because why would it be?
Right.
Xavier, the champion, versus Jeremy Lopez. Simply Luscious is out there with Xavier. Actually, Simply Luscious introduces Xavier in the annoying way that she does. Apparently, they're building up Lopez. Apparently, he's pretty big in NWA Wildside. Yeah, and he was trained by Dean Malenko, so he's got some credibility to him, I guess.
I want to say I've seen him versus AJ Styles, because like we used to get NWA Wildside because we're like Southern Ohio, so like we get it, and like we get like a block of wrestling on Saturday nights from like 1 o'clock to like 4 o'clock in the morning. It'd be like NWA Wildside, Ring of Honor, ECW, and then another one like somewhere from the Northeast. I can't remember what it was, but like that was a Saturday evening block. And I remember fucking Eric Paris and AJ Styles and Jeremy. I don't think they called him that, or maybe he might have switched his name, but I do kind of remember him from Wildside.
Yeah, because that's literally the only thing I know about Wildside is that AJ Styles was there. So, and I think that I could be wrong, but I feel like NWA Wildside kind of like faded out when TNA started, because they're NWA
well, they
TNA.
kind of absorbed all of them, like all those tiny ones, like in the Tennessee, Kentucky area. They kind of like just absorbed them all. Yeah,
exactly. The match, it's okay. I mean, it's kind of slow. It's kind of nothing really gripped me, but that was kind of an Xavier match to a T.
And really, Jeremy Lopez had better moves, had a better move set, did better moves most of the fucking match anyway.
Dude, that tornado. So he hits like a tornado DDT, but with a double underhook.
Right.
But then like transitions directly from that into a Tiger powerbomb, and you could see his Dean Malenko influence and that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, Xavier, he has some decent moves. He hits like a F5 GTS, I guess you would call it. But ultimately, Xavier, the champion, he ends up winning with the X Breaker, which is like a cross neck breaker of sorts, Rude Awakening, followed by a 450 splash for the win. But yeah, like I said, I think that, at least I hope the story they're trying to tell here is that how shitty of a champion Xavier is and how he doesn't deserve it, how he's only champion because of the prophecy. And ultimately, Samoa Joe ends up taking the belt from him. So I feel like that's like, you think you're the best? That's kind of what his face was wearing that opening promo. Is like, I'll show you. So in the long run, I guess it makes sense. But just watching it like just here, it's like weird. You're champion just in the 3rd match.
And there's literally like 10 matches on this fucking card. And he's the 3rd match. So there's that.
Not even like the intermission main event. It's just like in the middle of the first half. But yeah, not a lot going on there. But after that, we have the Hit Squad versus kind of the FBI, I guess. So you just missed Nunzio. Nunzio just left for WWE like a month or two before this. And him and Mama Luke they were teaming, and then they had a feud. But then it got cut short because Nunzio got called up to WWE. And the whole thing there was Nunzio was trying to convince Tony Mama Luke to drop the FBI shtick, drop the comedy stuff and become like a serious wrestler, which I guess he kind of has done. But Tony Mamaluke is still in a tag team here, and he's recruited Matt Thompson. So I've never heard of this guy. Apparently at this point, this is like his 5th match ever, I think commentary said. Like, he's still very new. But how would you describe this guy physically, Matt Thompson?
Fuck, I don't even know. Like, he was like big, but not at the same fucking time. Like, it was weird how big and small he was at the same time.
Because he was like 6'8", but he's probably like 160 pounds. Like,
I'd say Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is about the best comp I could probably fucking think of.
Man, if you gave me 1,000 guesses, I would have not said Kevin Durant was the guy you're going to compare him to, but I guess a tall, lanky dude. He had like just straight hair. He kind of looked like a lady, but the crowd loved him. The crowd loved Matt Thompson.
He had some dope ass moves. I mean, he was actually doing like a couple spin kicks and shit. Like, he had some sort of like high flying. He was getting off to be that tall.
Dude, that lion salt he did.
Yeah.
It was like one of the best lion salts I've ever seen because he's so tall. So his feet go like 12 feet in the air. So it just looks crazy. But, I've never really heard much of him. So I don't know what happened. Did he fade off or whatever? But yeah, they're facing the Hit Squad here, who are just these two big, New York dudes. I don't know, something like that. But the match is pretty much them, the Hit Squad, brutalizing Tony Mamaluke with just stiff ass clotheslines and suplexes. But man, Matt Thompson gets tagged in and the crowd's on their feet. Like I said, he's doing lion salts.
He goes to fucking work. Kicks. I'm not even gonna lie. He goes to work. It was dope.
Dude, Matt Thompson for ROH champion. Let's do it. Let's do it. But at the end of the match, Tony Mamaluke has Mac in a guillotine. But while this is happening, Mafia hits a burning hammer onto Matt Thompson.
And about breaks Matt Thompson's fucking neck.
Oh, yeah, that's a rough one.
Right on his head.
Yeah, I mean, the Hit Squad, their whole thing is like, hey, we're just going to actually hurt you. And because wrestling. Because it's like right after the Attitude Era, and it's like transitioning into an era of like WWE where it's kind of like a weird transition. So I feel like a lot of the indies are like trying to compensate for that with like, we're so not sports entertainment that we're just going to actually hurt you. So that's kind of what their deal was here. But yeah, the Hit Squad wins. Pretty much just a showcase for them. But pretty fun introduction to Matt Thompson too, I guess. What'd you think of this match?
It was like you said. I guess it was supposed to be a squash match, but not really. Like,
yeah.
But they did. The Hit Squad did have a couple of dope moves. Like they had one. The one guy, he had one. He gorilla pressed him, dropped him down to like he was gonna world strongest slam him, and then flipped him back. Like they had some decent shit to be just two big guys in the ring. But Matt Thompson was definitely the star of this shit.
Yeah, for sure. But man, after that, we have, so the show is called Scramble Madness, and this is why. So we have a 10-man tag team scramble match. So we got Divine Storm, the team of Chris Divine and Quiet Storm, the Amazing Red, and the SAT versus the team of Special K, which is just, it's 5 high guys that are all wearing baggy pants and headbands. But you also got Joey Matthews in there, who is like a few years older than them, but he's like the old uncle that's like trying to be hello fellow kids, like that kind of deal.
Right. They act like he was like 40 years old. He was probably 23, 24.
Oh yeah. Well, the great thing about this match is you have all these guys flying around, but then Joey Matthews will just grab a headlock on a guy.
Literally
just will start booing.
Straight rest hold and shit out of nowhere after they just did a fucking crash on both sides of the ring, tore up the ringside cage or whatever the hell that was supposed to be, and then he do a rest hold for 5 minutes. Like it was the storytelling. I for what trash this was. It was actually decent storytelling and psychology for this to be the train wreck that it was, honestly.
Dude, all right. So I'm gonna be honest. I watched this like last Friday or something, and I was drinking while watching the show. And by this match, I was a little too. I wasn't hammered, but I was too drunk to follow a lot what was going on.
It wouldn't have mattered, bro. It wouldn't have mattered.
But I mean, I did catch a few spots.
I watched it completely sober and couldn't fucking keep up.
All right, good. It wasn't just me then, because I was going cross-eyed watching this shit.
No, it wasn't.
What spots stuck out to you in this match?
Fast Eddie did the luchador spot where like 6 of them grab each other and wait for the guy to do a move from the outside. But he got so fucking high and like his legs came down. Like luckily those weren't real guardrails and it was just fencing that they got from Home Depot because his shins literally hit that damn thing, but it dented it. Like normally if that was normal guardrails, and I've seen this happen in person before at a Pro Wrestling Revolver show here in Ohio that like Sammy Callahan and the Chris Brothers run. A guy did a moonsault, literally snapped his shins in fucking two at the show. So like I thought that's what was gonna happen, but then I realized, oh, that's just aluminum fencing, hollow aluminum fencing from Home Depot. So it saved his ass.
It's funny you bring that up. That actually happened. It was like one of the first Ring of Honor shows. It was Chris Marvel, I think his name was, did it. And he broke his leg. Like it was a match against Paul London. It was like 2 seconds into the match, he does it, and it's like, oh, you know what? No, it was Paul London that did the moonsault, but the way he landed on him broke his leg. So I'm kind of wrong there. But Fast Eddie's he's actually in a later match. Yeah. But it does all kind of blur together. It's another kind of scrambly kind of match. But
and then they had the power bomb off the top rope spot with all 4 members. Like that shit was actually kind of dope. Like, and no one broke their neck either, so that's always a plus.
It's impressive. Have you seen Ready to Rumble?
Yeah.
The movie? When they all do the corner headbutts onto Jimmy King. Like that's what I thought of when they did that, because top rope power bombs coordinated on each corner. I think like the baby faces do that, but then later in the match, the heels do like all 4 moonsaults at the same time. So it's
which was way more dangerous and looked way more shittier than the power bombs did.
Yeah. But this match like really embraces the spottiness, which sometimes I kind of roll my eyes at, but like I can like appreciate it because that's like all this match is designed to do, is to show like some fancy moves. So it's like it's entertaining for what it is.
There was some psychology in it, especially with the Joey Matthews part. Like they were trying to sprinkle shit in as best they could with so much chaos going on. Like,
and
like at one point the heels cleared the ring and Amazing Red was on the side. I think he had got to his spot too quick. So then he literally, like I said, then he just drops down. No one touches him. He just drops down holding his nuts like somebody hit him or something, and nothing happened to him at all. Like, and then 2 seconds later, Joey runs over and like kicks at him and shit, and then he falls off the apron. But like, I think he got to his spot too soon and didn't realize it. So I was like, all right, okay.
I didn't catch that, so it's fair play. Now there's so much going on that it's like you can get away with that kind of shit. Like Joey Matthews, like everybody's doing. I forget who it is, but someone's like on the mat and everybody's doing these like crazy moonsaults on them, like standing planchas and stuff. And then Joey Matthews just comes in and just does like a people's elbow. That kind of shit cracked me up. I love that. Amazing Red does like a reverse Styles Clash onto one of the guys that I don't know how he didn't break his neck.
Right.
The quadruple power bombs. We talked about that. There was one spot I had to make a GIF of it or a clip of it and post it on Twitter. There's one spot where all the heels are surrounding Chris Divine. Joey Matthews pokes him in the eye, and then the other 4 guys of Special K are trying to do enziguris like at the same time, like a quadruple enziguri. 3 of them are on time. And there's one guy, I think it's Angel Dust. He's like a whole second behind. So everybody kicks the guy. They're already down. And this guy's like just starting his kick. But they can get away with this kind of shit because their whole gimmick is that they're drug addicts and they're all high all the time. And the commentary is even like, oh, that's what happens when you're doing all the marijuanas or whatever he said. So that was hilarious. But match was probably the most entertaining match to me of the night, if I had to be honest, just for how crazy it was. But SAT or Amazing Red gets the win with the infrared. And I believe they're really building up SAT here too. Like they're super over.
Yeah, well, they had a shot. I believe they got a tryout with WWE and like did a couple dark matches, but I don't think they actually made it. Like, cause they were huge. Like I do remember them for sure. Like around this time, like PWG and shit like that.
Yeah, I think if they came around a little later, they might have had a bigger run.
Right.
But I think they get a title shot at the next show. So crowd loves them. They love the Spanish Fly. They were the creators of it. Yep. So yeah, this match was nuts, but I loved it. Hey, you got anything else on that?
No, like I said, like I was impressed about the little bits of psychology they tried to sprinkle into this fucking car crash. So they definitely got an A for me. This is one of the better, like, just fucking 10-man tag chaos matches.
Yeah. But so how do you follow that up? Well, with some Samoa Joe murder. So we have a 2-on-1 handicap match. We have Samoa Joe versus the Ring Crew Express, Dunn and Marcos. Now these dudes, they can't be any older than 12.
Literally, like literally. I thought it was Everized. I'm gonna be honest with you. They talk like him, they act like him. I'm like, oh, this is where Everized started. Like that's all. That's what their gimmick was. Everized 20 years ago.
I can't remember if this already happened or not, but they have like a promo backstage, and their little like catchphrases, "We're gonna rock you like a hurricane," and then they go to the camera.
Yeah, dude. I think it was right before because it was Samoa Joe. He was like, Christopher James was like, "You fucking idiots, Joe. That's what you're beating up tonight or some shit." And he was like, "See you in the ring, boys," and then just started like.
Dude, it's like I couldn't tell if they were like in on the joke or if they were like really trying to be like, yeah, we're gonna rock you,
right?
Because they're like so nervous and they have like the bowl cut haircuts that makes them look even younger somehow. It's crazy shit. But I don't know if I brought this up yet, but these entrances, right? So this is the first time that they've done this, but there's like a fisheye lens effect. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Ever. So, and the way that they did it too with the editing of the names, like they did, they put the names and everything on the screen, then did the fisheye where they should have put the names and shit over top of the fisheye filter, not the way that they did it. So you couldn't even read some of the fucking names. You're like, who the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? Like if I didn't know it was Samoa Joe, like I'm like, what is that? Like their editing was fucking ass on this at least.
Yeah, it's really bad. Like I couldn't, like they're just trying to do too much. But and Samoa Joe, I noticed it in this match because Samoa Joe is like this intimidating dude. He's coming out here, he's like slitting his throat, and he walks out and he just had this goofy fisheye like effect on his face. It's like he's just Joey Samoa walking out here. But yeah, just a squash match here. There's one point where Joe he flips Marcos's shirt over his face like a hockey, like he pulls his shirt over it, but he whips him into the rope and he can't see. Oh, it's so good.
He slapped these motherfuckers so fucking hard. Like the amount of times he slapped them and how hard he slapped them. Like, I'm sorry, I would have took some shit in my own hands. No grown man is ever gonna slap me like that. Ever. I don't give a fuck if it's make believe or not. Predetermined outcome. Like no grown man is ever gonna slap me on my face like that on where it's recorded and somebody can go back and see. We gotta fucking fight. What was it like when Charlie Murphy said, "You slap a man in the face like that, they had a gunfight afterwards." That's what fucking the way he was slapping his shit. You right. Like, bro, like no.
Well, hey, good thing they're not grown men, right? They are children after all. Exactly. So but yeah, Joe, just some quick Joe brutality here. He hits the Island Driver onto one of them for the win. But yeah, pretty much just setting the tone for his match later with Homicide. But after that, we got a Boston Street Fight tag team match. So we got Paul London and Rudy Boy Gonzalez versus Biohazard and Michael Shane. So these guys, this has been a feud that's been pretty much throughout the entire year of 2002. Basically, the story is that they're all affiliated with Shawn Michaels' school, the Texas Wrestling Academy. Rudy Boy's a trainer there. But Biohazard and Michael Shane have basically split off. They don't really give Rudy Boy any credit. It's Shawn Michaels trained us, not you. And Michael Shane, if you're not aware, is the cousin of Shawn Michaels, which is his whole gimmick. Man, I feel like I talk about Michael Shane too much on because I cover TNA too, and he's there. It's enough.
Well, that was the thing. He was a name. He was supposed to be he was supposed to be the first big indie guy. from that era, and then like it just never. Like I don't know if it was injuries or what, but like it just never happened. And he was pretty much a fucking Shawn Michaels clone. I mean, he had the moves and shit and everything. Like I said, I don't know. I can't remember back then like what exactly, but I know he was like in TNA, Ring of Honor, shit like that. Like he was everywhere.
Yeah, and he definitely stuck out because he doesn't feel like an indie wrestler. But I think it's just the times people wanted indie wrestlers. So like you could tell Michael Shane definitely has like a good sense of like, you know, how to format a match and how to get heat. Because he has heat at this point. His promos are pretty good, but I think people at this time just want to see flips and people getting dropped on their necks. So he didn't really fit in. I guess that's why it's kind of like similar to Xavier. Like he was solid, but he kind of got lost in the shuffle, I think, eventually. But we got a street fight here. I guess it's the culmination of their storyline because Gabe on commentary after the match is over, he's like, I think this feud is over, which he's booking it, so he probably knows. So
exactly.
But the match, it's fine. You know, it's nothing too crazy. Rudy Boy does a tarantula on Michael Shane, which is just old ass Rudy Boy Gonzalez out there. But he's bumping his ass off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The best is when he tried to do the 619 and like tried to catch himself. He about took half the ring ropes off the fucking ring when he did that.
It was just a 6. What he did, but this is a match where the barricades, like this is where I began to notice. They're like, hey, fuck these barricades. We're just gonna destroy all of them.
Right.
Everyone's getting whipped through them. You know, chairs and ladders get involved. You know, people like are laying the ladders on the outside and dropping people on them. There's one point where the ref kind of fucks up. So Rudy Boy hits Michael Shane with a super kick. The ref like gets down to count. He like does a 1 count and then he stops and then he pauses for a little bit and he starts counting again. So the crowd's like, was that 3? Was that a new count? There's no kick out. No one got their shoulder up. So it's like, why'd you stop?
Even commentary was like, we're just going to go ahead and admit that was some shitty ref work right there.
Yeah, he's out of here. But ultimately, Rudy Boy hits a super power bomb off the second rope. And then Paul London follows it up with a shooting star press from the floor or from the mat. And then London makes the pin, gets the win. And so Paul London and Rudy Boy get the win here. And like I said, commentary plays it off like this feud's over. It was kind of felt like because Paul London and Michael Shane have had some pretty good matches. They had a street fight a few shows ago that was like legendary to this day. So it's kind of an anticlimactic finish here, but for what it was some fun kind of brawling and weapon stuff in this match, I thought.
Yeah, and getting Rudy Boy in there too. Like he actually was. Yeah. He was taking some decent bumps and he was dishing out some shit too. For him to be as old and big as he was, like he actually was pretty fucking athletic.
Right. Yeah. And he trained these guys. So, he's out there like, all right, I'm gonna at least hang with you, you know?
And you could tell they did have chemistry. Like everything looked, for as sloppy as most of these matches were, this was one of the matches that wasn't. Like, even though it was a street fight.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But then after that, we have a 6-man tag. So we have the Carnage Crew, which is a team of DeVito, Loke, and a new member, Masada, versus Alex Arion, Don Juan, and Fast Eddie. So this match is pretty much here to build up to the next card, which is Night of the Butcher. And that card, the main event, is Homicide teaming up with Abdullah the Butcher versus the Carnage Crew. So this is pretty much building up the Carnage Crew for that. Because the other guys, Arion, Don Juan, Fast Eddie, they're all like local wrestlers that have been featured a little bit, but they're always losing or they're just kind of like in dark match kind of stuff. Fast Eddie, who is legally blind, which is
blew my fucking mind.
Crazy. Dude, there's one point where he like leaps. He does like a poetry in motion kind of deal where he leaps off the back of Don Juan and hits a Rana onto one of the guys, Masada, I think, like off the top rope. Like he jumps up there and hits a hurt. Like, how do you do that, man? That's insane. That was really the one spot that caught my eye in this match. Masada looked really good. I don't know really anything about him. This is the first time I watched him, but he looked pretty dope. DeVito is a guy. DeVito and Loke, from what I understand, were decently big in ECW, or they're involved in ECW. But I feel like DeVito like doubles in size every time I see him.
Yeah, what DeVito was, he was like part of the FBI and all that shit. And then he also went to, pretty sure that went to WCW, was like the hardcore championship with the time when they were doing like the Team Canada stuff with Lance Storm and all that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The finish comes when DeVito hits a second rope pile driver on a Fast Eddie, which looked brutal. And that gives the Carnage Crew the win. So yeah, pretty quick. Like I said, kind of more of a showcase for the Carnage Crew, but it was decent for what it was.
It just kills me the guys that they were behind in the company at this time.
Carnage Crew. You're not a big Carnage Crew fan?
No, I don't even fucking know who Carnage Crew is besides the
I don't really know what they because I know we're like on the we're about to hit like the whole CZW invasion.
Right.
So I imagine they could be involved in that somehow. I don't really know a lot about it, but that seems like they would fit in pretty well with that kind of stuff. But yeah, like you said, I like all the talent they have, and like these are the guys, but it is what it is, I guess. A couple of guys in jeans and t-shirts, a couple Tommy Dreamers out there. So I get it.
It was literally a group of Tommy Dreamers. That's that's literally what it was.
But man, so this is probably the match that I was looking forward to the most on this show. Samoa Joe versus Homicide. But we were talking about it on Twitter, and this match seemed a little too quick for me.
Yeah, it was like, especially how you built it up. I'm like, oh, fuck, these guys are probably going to fucking go an hour, tear each other the fuck apart. And it was like, was it even 10 minutes?
I don't think it was. I think it was less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, and then how they ended it to the finish.
Yeah, it was like, because Samoa Joe and Homicide, I mean, they're both like at the beginnings of their run at this point. So I'm sure they have other matches in the future that are probably more epic. But yeah, this is like a weird, because Homicide just broke off from his tag team that he came in with. So he's just getting like starting as a singles guy, and Samoa Joe just came in a few shows ago. But I mean, with the time they had, I mean, they made the most of it. I mean, they had a little bit of chain wrestling in the beginning, but after that, it was just like, hey, let me hit you really hard. Now you hit me really hard. And it's like Joe hits one of the most brutal Uranagis I've ever seen in my life. Just
folded his ass up. Literally folded him up like a bath towel. Jesus.
Yeah. Joe, he hits a dragon suplex after that, which is like equally like dumps him right on his head. Homicide, he's throwing out some stiff stuff too. He hits a backdrop driver that again Joe's landing right on his head. Concussion City, this whole match, man. They have a standoff where they're both slapping the shit out of each other, which is like classic, Japan style. Like, always love that shit. Always a sucker for it. You see the sweats flying off their faces. Joe, he hits the ropes for a clothesline. Like, you're about to see it. Like, oh, we're about to see a decapitation here, man. We're just getting started with this match. But then Homicide just reverses it into a schoolboy for the win. So,
and not even I wouldn't even say that was a fucking schoolboy. Like, he literally just like, it was like a reverse roll up and he just held onto a leg. Like, it was one of the worst fucking roll up deals I've ever seen in a fucking match. Like, it was literally 24/7 title. Terrible.
Yeah, it was definitely something Reginald would do, but yeah, for what it was fine, but it definitely felt like they had another gear they could hit. And also, it's just weird to see Joe lose at this point because he's not champion yet, but once he becomes champion, like that dude never loses. Yeah, at this point, Joe's still kind of getting introduced to the audience. I think he actually lost to Low Key in his match with him, which if you want a really fucking good Samoa Joe match, go watch him versus Low Key at Unscripted. It was pretty much this, but a little longer, I think.
Right.
But yeah, ultimately, I mean, Homicide looked good, Joe looked good, so for what it was fine. But like I said, just felt like they had more to it.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I can't even lie.
Yeah. But along the same vein, kind of this next match, I kind of had a similar feeling. So we have the number one contendership trophy on the line. We have Christopher Daniels.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around, kind of like with the progress shit that we did, how the title was a giant spear or whatever, or eagle on the stick. So yeah, totally forgot about the trophy being like the marker of the number one contender. I totally forgot about that.
And it's funny, they weren't defended on this show, but the tag team titles are also trophies. So it's like, I think it's actually just one trophy for the tag team title. So it's like, these companies just trying out weird shit for their championships. Like, just get belts. Right. Like, it's fine. We like belts. But yeah, for the number one contendership trophy, so we have Christopher Daniels versus AJ Styles. Now, when you read that or when you hear that, you automatically, at least I do, I think of TNA. Like, I think of their feud with Joe, the X Division, all the stuff they did. And whenever, because this is their second match, I believe, at this point that they've had in Ring of Honor against each other. And like, it's a good match. Like, it's a really good match. But whenever I'm watching it, I'm like, man, I feel like the TNA stuff they did was better than this.
Well, yeah, well, a lot of that was too. They hadn't gotten to that gear yet, because the TNA stuff that was 2 or 3 years after all of this. Like what we were saying earlier about Christopher Daniels, like they weren't even calling it the BME yet. So like neither one of them had really. This is AJ fresh off Wild Side and everything, and breaking off from Air Paris and all that shit too. So like. None of them had hit their stride yet, which, again, like this one, like I kind of knew more about this match and about this feud than I did about some of the other things, because TNA and all that shit. So like this match, I knew that there was more to come with this, so I wasn't as disappointed as I was with the Joe and Homicide match as with this one. But like you said, it was a decent match. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, these are two of the best in the world, kind of still to this day as well. And this was fucking almost 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah. You get all the greatest hits from these guys. I did like the finish. So they're like trading roll-ups. It's real. Like all their transitions and counters are so smooth at this point, even though they're early on in their feud. But AJ, as they're trading like roll-ups, AJ eventually deadlifts Daniels up and hits him with the Styles Clash for the win. So AJ is the new number one contender and will face Xavier at the next show. But after this match, Mark Briscoe and Xavier, the rest of the Prophecy, hit the ring. They attack AJ, but then Jay Briscoe comes out to try to make the save. Then Amazing Red and SAT come out. So now they have the numbers, the baby faces do. So the Prophecies ran off by all these guys. And Xavier is still in the ring. AJ hits the Styles Clash on Xavier. So pretty much building up to their title match.
What I'm trying to understand is like how did so many of these fucking wrestlers get their neck broke doing the Styles Clash? Just literally just hold your head back. Like I know they were trying to make it out like it was a dangerous move and it's on AJ, but like, bro, you know how to move is ending. Just literally hold your head back and your face won't touch the ground fucking at all. Like, I can't even wrestle. I'm the most unathletic motherfucker on the planet, but I put me up on the fucking Styles Clash. I know to lean my head back so my face and head never touch the ground. Like, and at this point, I think he had already injured maybe 1 or 2 people by this point with the fucking move. So I'm like, how do you not know that?
Definitely. I agree. I think it's like it's like a muscle memory for people to tuck their heads rather than put their heads back. Yeah, so especially like early on when the Styles Clash isn't really a well-known move.
Right. Well, that's what it was. Like I remember like reading shit, like reading the dirt sheets and like Pro Wrestling Illustrated and all that shit. Like I remember reading about, never actually seeing it in person until Ring of Honor, and I'm like, what? Yeah. Like I was a kid then, and I knew tuck your fucking head back, bro. Like it's pretty simple. Like I was thinking it was like some sort of like weird pile driver he was doing to like fucking murdering people. I didn't realize like that's what the move really honestly, it's the most trash, one of the most trash finisher ever. Because like, how you really gonna put somebody out with that fucking thing? But he was literally breaking people's necks. So
poor Yoshitatsu and who else he do it to? Like Kazarian or somebody?
I think it was Kazarian, and then it was like it was a couple dudes in Japan, I think.
Yeah, he almost did it to James Ellsworth at one time, but he saved it. It was like off the stairs too, so that would have been really bad. But shit, man. But yeah, you're like the Styles Clash. It's like a move that over time I've like become okay with. But when I first saw it, I was like, because when you think about it, you're literally just like 2 inches off the ground and falling on your face. Like that's what it is. Right. But it's like it looks cool.
And that was another thing too. Like the dude's like 5'7", so it's like there's no real impact on the fucking move. It just looks like you're doing something, but really you're not fucking doing anything at all. Like you said, you're 2 inches off the ground. So if you hurt yourself, that is strictly on you. That was never AJ Styles' fault if you broke your fucking neck on Styles Clash. Like, a body slam will hurt you more than the Styles Clash would. Like,
it will.
You know what I'm saying? Like, literally.
Yeah, I mean, he's still doing it to this day. So it's people have finally learned, you know, whatever, 20 years later.
Literally.
But that brings us to the main event. 30-man Iron Man match. We have the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, versus Doug Williams. So what are your thoughts on Iron Man matches in general?
I'm into them, but I'm into more like the 3 stages of hell type shit. Like, Iron Man's matches are all right, but it depends on, first of all, the feud, and second of all, the guys involved in it. Like, two submission-based guys in an Iron Man match, like that, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like these guys did it pretty well.
Yeah.
Because it felt like believable. Because sometimes you get these Iron Man matches, it'll be like a 30-man Iron Man match, and the score will be like fucking 7-6 or something. Like, how are you losing that many times in this short span? But there was only one fall in this match, which is crazy.
Which I did like that because it was only 30 minutes, it wasn't an hour, and like I said, it was 2 mat-based guys who aren't doing a bunch of fucking powerful moves or high-flying moves to take you out. So, like, to me, that part of the psychology of it, that part made sense, and I did like the finish. The finish made me like the match more because of how they did it.
Yeah. I mean, the pace in the beginning felt very slow. I mean, you have Bryan Danielson and Doug Williams. You kind of know what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of technical wrestling, chain wrestling kind of stuff.
And my thing is how Doug Williams is not even that fucking big. He looked like Big Show compared to Daniel Bryan at this point.
Well, even Daniel Bryan, he's like pretty thick at this point. Like, over time, he gets a little more scrawnier. I think like when he gets like into the pure championship kind of stuff. But right here, he's a beefy boy right here.
When he gets the ball head, that's when he's the thickest.
Right, because here he's still like, this is a period where he's kind of like fucking around on Velocity versus John Cena and stuff. So he might even like be trying to get with WWE. So maybe that's why he's bulked up a bit
with the Only Lurking shorts on.
Yeah. Dude, Bryan Danielson, I mean, he looks exactly the same that he does today, though. And he's still like just as good, just as athletic today, which is even Doug Williams too, because he just recently came out of retirement and he's still going pretty strong too. So
I actually saw one of those matches. It wasn't Progress, maybe it was Rev Pro, maybe not Rev Pro. What the fuck was it?
Was Doug Williams? I think he was on the Progress show that we watched.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly. I think he faced Rampage or something.
Yeah. The stuff I see now, he had slimmed down some. Like when he came back and retired, like he had slimmed down some, was way more not as clumsy as he was in that Progress match.
Yeah, it's funny to think though, because this is like a match we could reasonably see like today, like sometime soon. With who knows where Bryan Danielson's going to end up, and Doug Williams is out there. So
I don't think Doug Williams too like ever got any like real love like he should have for being how technically sound he was, and how, I mean, his finisher, the burning, I always forget what it's called.
Chaos Theory.
The Chaos Theory, like that fucking move is fire. Like, and people still people still use it to this day. Like, he definitely didn't get his flowers for how much he contributed as far as technical wrestling go, and like I said, his finisher.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at this point, like UK wrestling is like non-existent. So he's like. People weren't as ingrained to like respect it, I feel like, at this point. But the match is pretty, I mean, I like it's chain wrestling in the beginning, which some people might, you know, they might think it's slow, but for whatever reason, these two guys doing it was because it looked like believable and like genuine.
It looked like it hurt.
And like there's intent behind everything they're doing. So it's like I enjoyed it. But it's literally like the first like 15, 16 minutes is just like grappling.
That's the type of wrestling though. So like for me, like I think that was me and you that had that, like Kurt Angle and all those type of wrestlers, Lance Storm, like that's my favorite type of wrestling, that catch can bullshit or whatever JR and them used to say. Like I was fucking into it. The back and forth, the holds, the joint manipulation, all that shit. Like that's my favorite type of wrestling. So like I was locked in from the beginning. I mean, just in seeing the transitions from those different types of arm bars to that one point where Doug Williams, he just like put his knee. They were standing up. He had him down. He just put his knee like right underneath his fucking armpit and like just bent the arm back just like a little bit. I'm like, bro, you can't tell me that doesn't hurt in real life. Like, fake or not, you cannot tell me bending at the elbow like that on somebody. You can't tell me that shit doesn't fucking hurt. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you know these guys are out there like, yeah, I'm gonna show you a little something.
Yeah, they're stretching the fuck out of each other for sure.
My favorite one, this is like more towards the beginning, but Doug Williams has Bryan down and he puts his head on Bryan's leg, so he's like using his head to like dig, and he's like has like a leg lock while he's doing it. Like this British savage.
He kind of had him like, it was kind of like a reverse crossface, and Daniel Bryan was just fucking slapping the shit out of his face.
Yeah. Just because.
Yeah, it was like when you fucking hold your little brother down, just torturing him. He was just fucking slapping the shit out of him. Like, damn, all right.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So this is a 30-minute match, but so like about halfway through, Danielson hits a superplex from the top rope, which is like the first big move of the match.
Right.
Both these guys are they're like countering dragon suplexes, like they're both trying to hit a dragon suplex on each other. But Bryan ends up hitting one onto Doug Williams, and that gives him the pinfall. So he beats Doug. But ultimately, that's the only fall of the match, which is like, 20 minutes in or whatever it was. Towards the end, like the ending stretch was really good. Like a lot of good counter wrestling.
Yep.
Doug, they do the spot we see on a lot of Bryan Danielson matches where Danielson's going for a backdrop suplex off the top rope, but Doug counters it and lands on Bryan. Williams keeps trying to hit the chaos theory, keeps getting blocked, but he finally hits it. But amazingly, Bryan kicks out of it, which is like something you never really saw, because the chaos theory was like kind of like the Spanish fly. It was like that super move that beat everybody. Bryan kicks out. Doug Williams hits a knee drop from the top rope, which is like another one of his finishers. I think even the Progress show we covered, that's how he won the match, was with a knee drop off the top rope. But Bryan kicks out again. So at this point, Doug kind of has Bryan on the ropes. You like feel like a pinfall is coming. Doug Williams hits a second chaos theory, but Bryan's feet, he just kind of like accidentally rolls into the ropes, so it breaks up the pin. I like that. You don't make him kick out again, but he kind of gets lucky. Doug hits a brain buster after that for another 2 counts. So it's like, man, you can't beat this guy. And then at the last minute, you hear the 1 minute remaining warning from the ring announcer. Bryan, he's fighting back. He's hitting all these stiff European uppercuts. He sets up Doug Williams on the top rope, hits a back suplex. And it's at that point you're like, okay, we only have like 30, 45 seconds. Like that's got to be at the end of the match. But then there's a great false finish where Bryan, after hitting this suplex, he goes for the pin, but then Doug Williams just rolls him up into like a small package kind of deal. Like I bid on that one. I thought that was going to be a pin, but it wasn't. Bryan Danielson ends up kicking out. Then Doug Williams locks in a crossface. So the last seconds of the match, Doug Williams has Bryan in this crossface. The class, that's pretty much how most Iron Man matches end, I feel like, with somebody in a submission. Right. And like, can they hang on? But Bryan hangs on, doesn't tap out. So Bryan Danielson wins this Iron Man match 1-0. But yeah, like we said, the pace in the beginning was slow, but I feel like that built up to a really good stretch there at the end. Yeah, no,
I totally agree. Like I said, like for it being what it was and the type of wrestlers, the finish is what sealed it for me and made me enjoy it more. Because it was more realistic, like I said. Like the biggest moves they hit were a superplex off the top rope, and then him reversing Daniel Bryan's fucking top rope suplex that he always does. Like, so there shouldn't be, like you said, it shouldn't be a 7-6 fucking fall match. Right, like these are 2 guys that are grinders. They grind you out and set you up for their submission holds or their one big move that they do. So like the one fall was that shit was dope to me. I loved it.
Yeah, it was good shit. And it's like more context to it. So these guys wrestled earlier in the year, and Doug Williams beat Bryan with the Chaos Theory. So now at this point, they're 1-1. So after the match, they cut to some backstage promos from both guys, and basically it sets up a third match, which is going to be 2 out of 3 falls. So that shit will probably be pretty good as well.
Right.
So we got that coming up later in a future show. And then we have the prophecy closing out the show with the promo. It's just like Daniel is just like, all right, guys, come on, let's just get this promo done. All right, we got to get out of this town. I hate this town. Let's get this. So he's like, Daniel's being all like casual. And then they're like, action. And then Daniel's is like, ha 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 ha. So the prophecy, like that like transition. Like,
and the thing about it is too, like, he like I gotta go back to this. Like he's been doing this pretty much the same fucking gimmick for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like no one ever bats an eye at it. No one ever says like, oh, you need to change it up. Like that's how fucking good he is. And like I said myself, I shit on the AEW stuff all the time, but I'm gonna have to go back and reevaluate. Like, this motherfucker still looks good, still has the best moonsault ever. And this is this is literally legit almost 20 years ago. Like that shit is crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that he didn't win the Ring of Honor title until like, what was it, 2016?
Yeah.
Or something like that when he beat, who did he even beat? I don't even remember who he beat, but yeah, it's crazy. He stuck with it. Obviously, he had the big TNA run, came back to Ring of Honor, did all that stuff, and now he's in AEW, did all the SCU stuff. I feel like now he's kind of more like a producer kind of guy, but still going strong today, man. Gotta love it. But yeah, the show ends.
Only complaint I have is the bell bottoms now, like wrestling in the bell bottoms.
he does wrestle in like an Elvis kind of garb. But yeah, the show ends, so they do the little promo. Then they go like right down the hall. They find AJ Styles and Mickey James, and they just beat them down because Xavier and AJ have a title match, and then
Xavier fucking mush face and Mickey James like literally just fucking mush faced her up against the wall. I'm like, oh fuck! I'm like, didn't see that too much back in the day. Men putting their hands on
right. Yeah, a little rough, but so yeah, that's how the show closes, and yeah, man, Scramble Madness. Pretty good show, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially for one, like I said, like just seeing the moves and shit that they did were so like innovative, and like now, like some of the stuff you look at it, you don't even fucking bat an eye. But like back then, especially with these dudes that literally looked like fucking mailmen and garbage men and shit, like doing some of these moves, it was pretty fucking legit, for real.
Yeah, for sure. Really loved it. The Scramble match is probably my favorite match of the night, even at how ridiculous it was. It was just like all the innovation that you were just talking about. Like there's a lot of it in that match, but all throughout the card, you saw that.
That was my second favorite match. The Iron Man match was my favorite match.
Yeah, I could say it's definitely 1 and 2 for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, man, once again, glad to have you on again. It's a pleasure. I know you're always a good go-to for these kind of independent type of shows. Where can everybody follow you and listen to you?
You can listen to the Smacked Raw podcast. I actually do the Rewind show on Sunday nights, where we kind of go through the good, the bad, and the ugly of the week in wrestling. You can follow us at Smacked Raw Pod, and follow my personal page at Mr.8984, and kind of get into this thing with the hashtag MuteRN, where you use that as a hashtag and shoot me some shit that you want me to talk shit about or pop off about. We're definitely gonna get into those a little bit more. So yeah, there's that.
Hell yeah. When are we getting one of those, man? A MuteRN.
We got a couple of them in the bank. I'm hoping that we bring one out this week when we do the Rewind, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, if you ever need a special guest, I'm more than happy to rant about some stuff with you.
Absolutely.
For sure. All right, man. Well, I'll let you continue with your work day, I guess. But yeah, man, it was a pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you need me, I'm down.
Once again, thank you to RN for joining me on this Scramble-tastic episode, huh? I don't know. For joining me today. Go check out RN and the Smacked Raw podcast. All their info in the description below. Follow them on Twitter. Check out the link tree to check out all the shenanigans that they're doing. And yeah. Pitter patter, let's get at her. So next week, we got some progress action coming your way. Chapter 14. And that is a silly one. Maybe the silliest episode I've done with Charlie from Get Show returning to the show. So go check that. Or you can't check it out now unless you're listening and retroactively, which I guess you could. But if you're listening to this within the week, I'm rambling. Subscribe to me so you don't miss my episodes is what I'm trying to say. Apronbump.com for all of my previous episodes. Like I always say, If you want to filter to a specific promotion, era of wrestling, maybe you just discovered me, do me a favor, go to apronbump.com. Check out the breadth and depth that I go into amongst the various different promotions and decades and eras and KD Vix, and go check me out there. Subscribe to me on all the socials, all that also on apronbump.com and in the description of this episode. Kiss your mother on the mouth, slap your dog on the ass, and slap me in the ass. I don't know. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Oh, turnips. I'm hard.
Yeah. And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing I guess. Let's get started. It's the hardest.